Google Analytics 4, getting started with it. As a bit of a summary of myself, Head of Digital Marketing here at Kayo Digital, I tried to put every qualification there I could as possible, just to try and seem like I do have something going for me. And I actually added the contact details in case there is further questions you need. So who are Kayo Digital? A significant amount of you know us, and thank you for turning up to our clients. It's incredible. The others, we're a digital partner to companies looking to grow and innovate, be that through websites, digital marketing, software. We try and see ourselves as a bit of a solution-based company, i.e. you come to us with a problem and we'll find a solution. So the agenda. First point you probably wouldn't have considered, what should we do about a cookieless future? The reason I've kind of added that is that's one of the real drivers of GA4, Google Analytics 4. I'll shorten it a lot more because of lays rather than accuracy, but kind of touch upon that. Only really briefly go into it, but potentially give you some considerations. What is happening to Google Analytics and why? Again, that kind of goes on. What is GA4? Probably the most essential point to this presentation, and what you should be considering, positive versus the negatives of it, and what you need to do today, and questions. Again, I've added that questions part, but please feel free to interrupt me whenever you want. So moving on. I think the cookieless future is a hard thing to define what we should do. The reason being, no one really knows. and that is, I know that's a real get out of a kind of answer, but actually, as a quick explanation, what is a cookie? It's something that you'll probably see in the media, the press, quite a lot more and more. And it's something that attaches to you and your browser and follows you, especially third-party cookies. This is what we're really talking about. And a third-party cookie is something that you don't own, a software company owns, like Facebook or Google, that actually you don't own itself. So what you realistically are doing is getting another company to follow someone around, without making it sound creepy, around the web. Of course, as the consumers understand the power of these, people aren't as confident in them. And let's be honest, why should we be? It's similar to when GDPR came into place. Actually, a lot of people considered GDPR to be a negative thing. And by that, I mean marketing people who are so used to sending 10,000, 20,000 emails to people who didn't want to hear about them. This is similar in the sense of, actually, we take away the third-party cookies. That means the only people that really want to talk to us are the people who have already, well, they want to talk to us. And because of that, we're losing the ability to take advantage of not our own data. But the positives are, own your data. Do you have a loyalty scheme? Do you have an email database, a CRM, whatever it is? Actually, this information becomes so much more valuable because that third-party information becomes harder to get access to. It means the data you have becomes more valuable. And actually, it should have always been valuable because you do want to talk to the people who already know, like, and trust you. And really what you need to do with this kind of the cookies disappearing. And for example, Chrome in 2023, Google itself has said, we're probably getting rid of cookies next year, 2023. Hence why GA4 is coming about in 2023, you can assume. But what you really need to do is step back, understand what you want and need from your data. Because actually, albeit we will be talking about GA4 today, if you already can get your data, so for example, if you've got a Shopify store and all you want is revenue, then why are you looking into Google Analytics? You've got the information in front of you already. So it's being a little bit more specific towards actually what you want and then what you need, because sometimes there's a real disparity between it, because I want to be able to track every click of a button on a website. Do I need it? No, I'm probably going to never look at that. So it's really trying to justify to yourself and your business and the commercial objectives, what do I want and what do I need? Create a strategy around it, and then I have to say instill GA4, because realistically this presentation would be very short if I didn't say it. But as kind of touched upon before, make sure you need it first, because it is, analytics as a whole is a step up towards understanding more about your business. You don't have it there for the sake of it. So what's happening to Google Analytics? Well, disappearing in July 2023. This is for the traditional Google Analytics. There is something called Google Analytics 360. I'm going to pretty much ignore that today, but that's the premium Google Analytics, what you have to pay for. Why is it disappearing in 2023 such a big thing? Well, of the top 1,000 websites, 78% of them have Google Analytics on. Multiply that through the web, and that's a huge thing, really. This has never happened before, in the sense of Google Analytics Universal, what your websites use now, is the third upgrade. However, historically, and I'll explain this in a bit, they've just upgraded the platform. So you haven't had to change any code, or if you have, it's only slightly. Same data, same information. I use upgrade, but I probably shouldn't use the word upgrade. It's the equivalent of saying a helicopter is an upgrade to a car. Yep, there's some similarities, but the key word here being but, they are built differently. They have different impacts. They can be used differently. And why is it disappearing? Third-party cookies. GA4 is being badged as the privacy-centric tracking tool. Doesn't mean it's the final solution. And by that, I mean, actually, you look at what is produced already, and things change nearly weekly within the platform. So there is some TLC that needs to be done towards it. But they've said from July the 1st, 2023, Google Analytics Universal is disappearing. It will no longer be collecting your historic data, or it will no longer be collecting data. And GA4 is the one you should be using. So what is actually GA4? The first bullet point, probably as clear as mud, to be honest. It's a cross-platform analysis tool. What does that mean? It's a tool that can track apps and websites. Historically, that hasn't been capable of doing that. So actually, if you had an app and a website, you can combine them together and use the same analytics for the things. So you can see that cross-domain tracking, i.e. John Smith went from my app to my website. Brilliant. I know he purchased X, Y, but he started on my app. Trying to build a better user journey. Doesn't use cookies. It can use cookies, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't. And that's probably the biggest thing, hence that kind of privacy-centric kind of look towards it, because it doesn't need to follow you around the web. The reason being is, there's a couple reasons. The classic word AI, no one really knows what it means, but everyone can use it. I can say that here, yeah, AI, as well as the model it's based on is an event-based model. And by that, I mean, everything you do on a website can be considered an event, i.e. clicking. That's some sort of event, that's an action. Scrolling down the page, that's considered an event. Historically, Analytics Universal didn't really have those events. If you click somewhere, that was following the person, not the action. And just to try and make that a little bit clearer, you can't with Google Analytics, the current one, work out how far someone's scrolled. And that's because you're relying on following the person, not the action. An event allows you to follow the action. As touched upon before, is an upgrade, car, helicopter, different things, but it is considered an upgrade. I've already touched upon that hit-based model. It's focused on the users and the events. So really focusing on the actions and trying to build a profile around that. Yeah, that event, easy said, done. And then this is a bit technical. So some people can turn off for 30 seconds. Traditionally in Analytics Universal, an event, i.e. a goal, a conversion, traditionally what would be called, had category action label. If you ever created one, it was always a pain in the bum. I've got a 5-month-old, so my swearing has disappeared very quickly, but a pain in the bum. You don't need this with GA4. You can create your own them. They're called parameters. And actually, what parameters are there? If I've clicked a button, i.e. I want to click this navigation button and I want to track that. What I need to know is probably through the parameters is what pages clicked this button, how long they'd been on the website, and where they came from, i.e. Google, social media. Trying to create a picture around those events, and you do that through something called a parameter. So it gives you a lot more opportunity to be thorough with how you're tracking, create those user journeys, the profiles of people through these events. But as you probably can infer, gets a little bit more complicated than what traditionally we did. So the things have changed, and these are kind of like the headline things. So a lot has changed, but bounce rate, I've never had time for bounce rate. I think a few of my clients know this. I get a bit on my high box here. But what is bounce rate? So bounce rate historically in Google Analytics is someone who goes on a website, goes on the first page, and then leaves. So that's how it's painted. The real actual understanding around it is someone who goes on one page of your website and leaves, but during 30 minutes. So someone could be on that page for 29 minutes and they left, and that's considered a bounce. They could have just been reading an article, scrolling up and down, getting all the information. They could have just wrote down your phone number and left, but that's considered a negative thing. That's been completely scratched. What is good, because using my example, I use far too much. You get an emergency plumber, you go on that website, you get the phone number, you leave. That's considered a bounce, but that's seen as a negative thing in the industry when actually it's a very subjective thing. So that's been replaced with an engagement rate. And what is engagement? Engagement is if they spend longer than 10 seconds on a page, they click on a button, so that could be an event, so that could be a phone number or whatever it is. So 10 seconds of event, or they've gone to a second page. So it's making it a little bit more specific and a little bit more accurate to understand where you're tracking. You've got events out of the box, and back to that idea, events as an action. And some of these events are, how are people using your search bar? Historically, you weren't able to do it unless you did it manually. How far people are scrolling, if people have purchased. This is a bit of an iffy one. Sometimes again, you will have to do a bit of manual action, but actually you do get the opportunity to have something a little bit more advanced out of the box. Sessions, and I highlight this because for the marketing individuals within here, there may be a little bit of fear when you migrate to GA4. Your sessions will go down. And by sessions, I mean people have visited your website. The reason is, so historically, what's happened on Analytics Universal is if someone's left the website and come back, that's a new session. People probably around here say, yeah, that makes sense. It sometimes doesn't. When you've got an e-commerce store, they get transported to the basket or the payment provider, so like Stripe, and then they come back. So that's considered 2 sessions now. So actually, that should be 1 session, but only because of the way the website is structured, it's becoming 2. So now it's 1 session. As long as they've come back within half an hour, it's still only 1 session. Google Explore, so this is a big one. I mentioned Google Analytics 360 early on. That was a premium Google Analytics. You had to pay a lot of pocket money to use it. But now it's free with Google Analytics 4, and it's a way of creating funnel analysis, understanding where people have gone. It's a real exploring reporting tool that's exceptionally powerful. And finally, user versus traffic acquisition. So again, what we're used to is when someone completes a contact form, as an example, we track that and say that person completed a contact form, they came from Google. However, that person may have been to the website 3 times before that last action, and they may have gone from social media, paid advertising, direct, and then Google. However, Google gets all the love. It's like in a football game where the striker, all they've done is score. I say all, probably reducing the authority that they have on the team there, but they finished it. However, they received a kick from the midfielder. There's different actions before that, but all the authority goes to that person. We've tried to change this with GA4. So the user area in reporting, that shows where they first came from in the last 30 days, where traffic acquisition shows you where they ended up. So if they bought and you go on the traffic acquisition area, you'll see where they last, kind of that last click, that last conversion. So was it Google? The user shows the first. So where did that person come from first? So trying to give a little bit more power to the midfielders who made that cross. And events, I've kind of already harped harped about these far too long, but I just wanted to spend a little bit more time about them. So an event is an action. So again, back to the clicking a button, scrolling. Look at your website today and think, oh, it'd be really cool to understand when people do X, Y, Z. So it could be watching a video. It is an action taken that you want to be able to record. You can create your own events as well. So it's not just the ones that you see in front of you. It could be a combination of events. So that could be, I want to track everyone who clicked my video and then clicked my phone number. That's 2 events. Great. We can combine them, make into one. And it is really trying to understand how people use your website, but the actions associated to each page. And then within those events, as touched upon before, there's parameters. And the parameters are the information to the event. So, yep, they've clicked a video, what page? You may have a Netflix-esque website. That means, great, I know every time someone's clicked a video, but I've got 30,000 of them. What page are they? Where did they come from? Where are they on the page? Did they scroll? This is trying to paint the picture of event. So every event can have parameters. So again, if you're looking to add a little bit more knowledge to where things have come, what has happened, use the parameters. And I'll touch upon this in a bit. When you're using paid advertising, this helps as well, because actually you can create what's called an audience. Audience is just a persona, for lack of a better word. So what you can do is say, I want my Google advertising to target individuals who have clicked a video, who are on this page, and they came from Google. Brilliant. That's an audience member. You've painted a picture of a person there that you feel will be beneficial. And going into this a little bit more, you can create your own custom ones, but there are, and I'll go into this, show you a bit later, there are your own audience members already there. And this is kind of ones out of the box. One's Googler for, these are useful. So someone who's purchased, brilliant. Straight away, if they've purchased, you know they're probably quite useful to you. So let's track them, see how they go around the website. Is there kind of similarities in their actions? Do they always click that video and then buy? So even if you use an example, if you want to target people who have looked at all your hoodies on your website but haven't purchased, you can do that. You can create an event that says, I want people who've clicked the button to say, look at hoodies, have put them in the basket but haven't purchased. Again, 3 events there. 1, adding hoodie. 2nd, going to the basket. 3rd, leaving the website. Maybe clicking a link to leave. So then you create your own event, your own audience type, and you can target that through advertising and say, actually, they're the people I should be talking to. But with all this, it's not just open Google Analytics 4 and do it. It's get a piece of paper. Again, what do you want and need? The key question, I think, throughout today. So what should we be considering? Well, I've already touched upon the paper, but what data do you need and analyze, want to need again? What UTM codes? This is a bit of a, again, 30 seconds turn off, unless you're a marketer that use them. UTM codes are basically, if you click on an email advertising, I don't know, I always use Debenhams as an example, but they're probably not the most positive example these days. But let's say you got an email from Debenhams, you click a link, you'll see the URL, and it's always got funny like question marks, equals, and then random words after the URL. That's a type of tracking that's called UTM tracking, where actually you get the key information from the email and tell Google Analytics or your tracking device what information it needs. Use UTM codes, and I say that you can do it quite easily and quickly, but it just makes the data a little bit more clear. Actually, as well, this is a good time to set up GA4, because some of you have already heard July 2023, that's when it turns off. What means to someone like myself, actually, I can wait till July 2023. And the reason being is because I've got ages away. 2 things to count that, hence why I've actually done action for once in my life and not done my homework the night before. First one, COVID happened last year, what means all your data is rubbish anyway. And I don't mean rubbish, I just mean different. So when you're trying to compare year on year, most of us have gone, well, it's really hard to compare because last year and the year before was pretty unique. And that is avoiding the big uniqueness of COVID, the horrific thing. And that's actually just on the data sense. So set it up, because even your current analytics, you compare year on year, it's probably not as effective as it used to be. The second aspect of it, in July 2023, if you haven't set up GA4, you're not going to be able to have a year on year compare and contrast, because like I said, unfortunately, however, there are rumors, but no action on this yet. Google Analytics Universal, so the current one, will not be able to transfer data to GA4. Means you are starting from scratch. Again, the reason for this, the car doesn't go into the helicopter. Maybe it's got similar pieces, but they are different. They're different software platforms. And because of that, that's kind of why I would say, if you're going to do it, understand what you want and need. Can you get that with other data sources? No. Then install it as quickly as possible. Create those events, create those audiences, whatever you need. Do you have the right events? Again, if you have uploaded GA4, look at it, think to yourself, brilliant, but I would love to know if people use my navigation. That's easily done. Start actually writing a list of things you want to know and that you need to know, and create a list and start installing them, and or get some support to do it. Use Google Tag Manager. It's a really quick one. If you use developers, historically, Google Tag Manager with a bit of experience, you can do it 90% yourself. It's a learning up curve if you never used it before, like anything, but actually sometimes reliant on developers, and this is coming from an individual who works in a company with 50% of us are developers. I do understand that actually there is a barrier to sometimes a barrier to success when you're waiting for other people to do stuff. So using Google Tag Manager can really help. And the final question again, do you need GA4? This kind of feels like I'm on the tightrope of two edges here. I'm going, yeah, you all need GA4, and then, but make sure you need it. So if there is some conflicting comments here, I can only apologize. Here, and you will get this presentation, but a bit of a list of things that you can already track. The events specifically, so where do people come from, how many people come to your site, what mediums they come from, how long they spend, what do people search in the search bar. So the harder, so these are some examples of what you could do. Where do people click on my navigation? Do people from London buy anything? That could be an audience member. You could create an event of saying, London, I want to do an event of people buying, and then I want the parameter of making sure it's only from people from London. So that's brilliant. You've already created your audience there. How many people leave after they click my banner? Maybe you've got a banner advertising that pops up every time, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, is that annoying? And to some of us, we would say, yes, yeah, I hate it. To some of your friends, family would go, no, I really appreciate those. Use the data. It's the easiest way to do it. Understand, don't rely on hearsay, rely on actual data. What does my sales funnel look like? Again, we'll talk about that in Google Explore. You should be able to do this out the box if you've got the right events. If you don't, you have to install them. But yeah, how much revenue is made? So this is a bit of a bugbear of myself, and I think of the industry. But GA4 currently doesn't integrate well with e-commerce stores. It has a lot of e-commerce functionality and capabilities, but I think, well, they've got a year to sort it out. That will come into place, and when it does, it should become a lot easier. But currently, it's a bit of an uphill struggle. And then a final one is like how many products are added to the cart. You could get a little bit more specific on that. What products buy quicker, better conversion rate, etc., etc. But this is just a little bit of an idea for people. And then finally, and I will go into this in a bit, but use a demo account. I'll send this to you guys later. I kind of advertise this because it's a demo GA4 account where you can break stuff realistically. Break it, change it. You've got data that you don't have to mess around with your own account, and you can start understanding what things mean. And again, I will go over it in a bit, but I thought best to actually put a link to it on the presentation so you can understand the benefits. So we're kind of hurtling through here. Hopefully I haven't missed any questions because I am talking to a screen. But if I have, obviously when I stop sharing, I will be able to kind of go through each one. So shove them in the comment box if you don't want to talk. It's probably the best way of doing it. But the positives, so cookieless, brilliant. Yeah, with cookieless world, we need that. Event setups. So again, a lot of these are out the box. So there's some real positives. This audiences. This is probably more specific towards the paid advertising and actually being a little bit more targeted, but it's a real nice function that I don't think people have appreciated yet. And with that, you kind of get that better knowledge. You can do advanced events. So not just events out the box, but creating your own ones, combining ones, and there is that cross-domain tracking. And that isn't just between an app and a website, that could be between two of your own websites. So actually, I own 3 websites, and then I'm going to put analytics on each one of them, and I understand how they talk to each other, how people go from website 1 to website 2, website 3. Of course, there are negatives, and I think the probably biggest one is new. News negative. I know that's strange from coming to someone from a technology background, but actually new is hard because, well, uphill learning curve, and the unfamiliarity of something really can cause frustration. But hopefully after this, you'll have a bit better understanding of it. Some of the functionality is not complete. Touched upon the e-commerce element there. They are upgrading it, but there needs some TLC towards it. Is it the final solution? I put this, and I think probably to cover my back, as a bit of a disclaimer here. So Google have said, yep, this is our thing. We're putting everything towards this. This is the big aspect of our our growth, our development within the cookieless world. However, there is a beta tool that they've launched for server-side tracking. And for anyone who's not sad enough to understand what that means, server-side tracking is actually how do people get tracking people before they're even on the website. So before they've actually engaged with a website platform, before the website is loaded. So as soon as you click that button, it's notifying them someone's coming in. And that means it's GDPR compliant more so than GA4, because actually you're not following anyone, you're just relying on data hitting. You won't get the same amount of data, but it's just highlighting, is it the final solution? We don't actually know. It's not complete, it's not finished. Same thing, synonymous there. And there's no natural migration between Google Analytics Universal and GA4. Again, that car and helicopter. It's a bit frustrating because, albeit there's some real positives, bounce rate, becoming engagement rate, because that they don't talk to each other because they are completely different items. And there's a couple of concerns I wanted to actually address before we went through it. So, am I going to lose my historical data from Universal? Yes, at the moment. So you can hear my question mark at the end of that. Currently, yes. However, I think enough people kicked up a fuss. They're trying to fix that. It is expensive and hard to switch. It's not the case. Actually, it's really easy to implement. I think probably as easy or easier than the current Google Analytics. So if you've got web developers and they haven't added it, make sure they do. You can do it yourself, whatever it is, put it in. Will adding it break my other analytics? The answer is no. I'm kind of advising that you have Analytics Universal and GA4 tracking at the same time. Currently, because actually, well, first, you don't know if they will find a connection between Google Analytics Universal and GA4. And second, give yourself time to understand GA4. Don't just go like I did, unfortunately, and just go, GA4 is the only way forward here, because you've got a year to learn it, as well as a year to use the current data, your current strategy, your models, whatever you do, keep understanding and upgrading that. So the demo account. Brilliant. Give me a second. And hopefully everyone can see this. Cool. So these things are a nightmare, aren't they? Trying to get out. Perfect. Here we go. That's easy enough. So this is the demo account. As you can kind of see here, well, Google's already given you information so you can understand. I've kind of put it across.
I can't see this yet.
Oh, good. Good. That is always what you want to hear. Cool. Give me a second. Round 2. Please say you saw the presentation, or was that just me losing my mind?
Yes, we did see the presentation.
Oh, good. Good. That just made me die inside. Perfect. Can you see
Yes.
my browsers? Perfect. Thank you very much. Oh, that made my palms sweat thinking that you can see the presentation. Good. So cool. All right, so this is the demo account. The Google one, again, easy to install, free. The link's on the PowerPoint. Brilliant. This is a demo account, but of the traditional Google Analytics. Yeah, there's some different UI, like how it looks, but actually I'll start showing you the real difference. So the key thing is simplicity, but also becoming a little bit more efficient. So this is an old one, probably used to it, but here's the reporting area. You'll kind of see here, before I go too far, there's probably around over 100 different types of reports here. Each one has a micro one. You've got a huge amount of information. You go to the GA4 one, go to reports. Still very similar titles, so acquisition, engagement. It kind of got the acquisition, but the reporting here is cut down very a lot, to be honest. You've got around 24, 30 reports at most. However, a couple of these have been coded in by people using the demo account, when historically, if I go to a real trial one, you don't have that either. So already you're seeing, oh, where's that information? I don't have the historic information I had. Most of it's there. And by that, I mean, you type up here, you can find what you had before. But it is a real difference already. So what I want to do now is go through each area first. Any questions, fire them over, but actually highlight the key items to consider. So home, coming to the home, traditional, this is where you all end up. Gives you real-time data in the last 30 minutes, users, yeah, people coming, with the new users coming over a 30-day period. There is areas over the side here, not on the home report, but reporting where you can define the date. So if you want 2 months, brilliant, that can also be done. Users, new users, so the new people, average engagement time. Talking about engagement again, that is really defined by people being active on the website. Revenue, that's revenue, common sense here. Where people are coming from. The thing that has changed a lot is they do have reports and recently viewed area. So these insights are things that they feel would benefit you. Again, a little bit AI here and guesswork on Google thing, but it gives you key information that historically you may not have understood or even known about. But the important area, the reporting, what we're all kind of used to, delving into this area. So again, users, new users, engagement, same as home, actually. And you've got the key information, a few additional things that you didn't have at home. But if we really go into specific areas, so acquisition, so how did they get there? Simplifying that. So event count, again, talking about those events, their actions. You've got the users, how many users, conversions. So one thing I probably should have said is historically, and I'll show this here actually, a conversion was a big thing, and it still is. It's a big thing. So it's someone completing a contact form, someone purchasing, someone entering a checkout, massive things. However, very hard to code in, or very hard to add. You used to have to go to goals, you have to create a new one. It won't let me, it's a demo account, you'd have to create a new one, you'd have to create the event associated to it. What has changed here is any event you have. So any button click, anything you're already tracking to become a conversion. So you can see here events on this demo account, a scroll. Yeah, brilliant. I want that to be a conversion because that's important to me. And that's all you need to do. It's a quick tap of that mark as conversion. So that can be found in configure, events, and then after 24 hours, it probably won't appear straight away, or it has. Generally, it takes about 24 hours. You'll start seeing that information. But if I quickly jump back, so you've got the events conversion. So that's the really important actions to us. But again, they're just events that we've highlighted as important. We've got where people are coming from. So none, Google doesn't really know. Use a UTM to make that a little bit easier. Organic, i.e. search engines. CPC, these are paid advertising, referral, other websites, affiliate websites, email, easy. You can click into each one of these. You can define it a little bit by source campaign. I wouldn't go too far into that, but actually it does allow you to be a bit more specific. And then, as kind of touched upon before, there's user and traffic acquisition. So user is that midfielder in football. So actually that user is the one who passed just before the event, the conversion. So as you can kind of see here, it's got the key mediums where people come from, the key dimensions as we call it. You can scroll right and you've kind of got events and conversions. And this is a really big thing because actually how many people from Google buy or scroll from mine? It's not a great example to scroll. But let's say the actual conversion was purchased. How many people do it? Oh, 33,000, brilliant. Let's be really specific actually. Let's actually only look at the purchase on the demo account. Give it a second, fine, it upgrades. So you also know the event count. So how many people within those events purchased? We find out, well, viewed a cart at one point. You'd hope it to be about right the same. Okay, so already we know 12,000 people or 13,000 viewed the cart, only 400 purchased. So there's an issue there that we can look into because actually, why are so many people viewing the cart and not buying? That's something that we can create an audience around, review. Again, it's using events to really understand why things are happening and what's happening and when. But yeah, so again, talking about the engagement rate here, I've got the new users. Yeah, brilliant. They're just the users that come to the website, new in the last 30 days or over this period. So if I click here, sorry, because it's a demo account, the more people use it, it gets a bit slower. In theory, this data changes, brilliant. So this changes. You can change it. You could be a bit more specific, but fine. Let's just only focus on this. You can actually search and just say, I only want organic. So Google today. Just make it a little bit easier on people watching. So there we go. So you've got engaged sessions, i.e. the sum of people who've actually done an engagement. So that is, again, been there longer than 10 seconds, clicked on event, and or went to another page. So we know 60% of people engaged. That means 40% of people spend under 10 seconds and head off. Engagement per user, that is really, we're looking for the higher the better on that one. Engagement time, that's pretty much common sense there. And then the total revenue, if applicable. Again, this may not be applicable to all of you guys, but it's just to show what sort of information you can get. You can also compare. So actually, if you wanted to say, I don't know, city, what city? Let's do London as it's the easiest one. And again, you will have to have enough data for this. Sometimes you won't, but let's say we only want to compare, or we want to compare London visits versus just the general. You do this and you start seeing, okay, we've got London users versus all users. This isn't a great one to show, but it's more just to show you actually that you can compare and contrast. You could even work out like the revenue of it. But that's the user acquisition. So again, that's the midfielder. It's putting a bit of love towards those individuals. You can do traffic. And if I get rid of that comparison, and more for everyone's reference here. You can share the report with people. You can share a link if easier. And this isn't just on the demo account, this is as a whole. And Insights gives you kind of examples of reports that you may find interesting. It's great to play around with and break with. Again, traffic though, very similar page to user. But again, this is really defining the striker. So the last one that came in, the thing that touched it last before it converted. So again, same information there, but slightly different emphasis. Cool. So the engagement. And really, this is a whole page, well, a whole reporting area away from historically what was bounce rate, but like this is bounce rate on roids if we are going to compare and contrast. So again, the overview, average time, engagement per session, average engagement time again. Don't know why that is. Demo account, this is my excuse here, demo account. But views, event count, all this stuff, event names, the key ones that have been actually engaging with. So these, going back to the events, these are certain things. So scroll, page view, user engagement. More for, as a piece of advice, if you're ever creating one, make it easy to understand. I created something yesterday that today I looked in and I went, I don't even know what that means. So yeah, try and think of a naming structure that at least is understandable to you and hopefully to your colleagues. So where these page titles and screen classes are, so actually what pages are getting what. You can go, like any report, you can go into it a little bit more. So if I clicked on that, I wanted to know what's popular, what pages are doing well. Got the home, how many people are going to the home. So similar to what you're used to with Google Analytics, how many users, new users, views per user, i.e. how many times they come back, average engagement time, unique users scroll, so actually where do they go, event count, back to that idea of going, if we wanted to only focus on people who went first visit and then converted, we can do that and we know what pages they do it from. So that in theory, you would hope that it will just be, oh, and you can filter everything in the sense of click on it and it will show you the relevant page. So as we saw here, I put the first count as first visit. So anyone who's visited the place and purchased. So if we had a specific page that wasn't just about purchasing, so check out, all that revenue's there. But let's say we're focusing on something different. So I don't know, begin checkout. In theory, you'll get very different pages. You'll get, if I quickly filter it, perfect. So you got people who've gone from home straight to the checkout, or lifestyle, if it was your page, men's t-shirts, kind of starts building that picture one more time. So events, again, probably the important part about Google Analytics are these events. So currently these are the ones that I have. If I quickly get my dummy site up here, this is probably the events you'll see. Actually, you may not see any events because it's only me using it. But these are the key ones that come out of the box. But you also, as touched upon, video, as you can see when people click on the video or when people click on video. But pre-warning, it's only on YouTube videos. I think nature of it, Google owns YouTube, it makes it a bit easier. If people are searching, all these things. But yeah, you get a bit of an understanding of the events, the event count, events per user, total revenue, if applicable. And then conversions, and that's probably the more important part to a non-e-commerce company and a commerce company. But if I went there on this one, you can start seeing, oh, the event name, I want it to be, let's say, purchase. So this could be contact form submission, whatever it is. You can look at the source medium, where did they come from? Perks at work, referral. You can look at anything that you want. What city? Back to city, or anything URL. anything that you feel would benefit understanding where these people came from, because it could be your medium fine, it could be device. Do you want to see what sort of device they're using? If so, device, easy enough. All these things can be broken down. I've probably gone a little bit too specific here with device, but like desktop versus mobile, whatever it is, you can create this, you can do the events, conversions, and you know you've already set up those conversions in the configure conversions events. So you actually understand what this has been recorded against. And let's say we really wanted to look into this one, because the Galaxy S21 Ultra 5G is the thing that is bringing us the most love. So already you can go into this, you can see it gives a bit of an understanding of when they come. I'll be honest, I personally don't like these new graphs because they look very complicated. But if you like them, you like them. You can refine them, you can change them. But I'm a simple bloke. I like tables. So yeah, so here within that phone that we've already clicked on the purchase through conversions, we know that actually on that phone, the Galaxy 5G, people are coming through organic referral, paid advertising, email, affiliate. Again, we can change these if we want, but this is more just an understanding of you can get the information towards the event itself. Oops, I went in the wrong area there. So yeah, so the conversions itself. So it allows you to do the conversion, but it can also define where it came from, the event, whatever you want to do. Final one, member level. No, we won't get into that one. It's probably getting repetitive. So the monetization. This one is the only area, and this is probably the important one for the e-commerce individuals around here. But again, this is harder. Well, easier said than done, sorry. So again, as I kind of touched upon before, it doesn't connect naturally with e-commerce stores yet. You need to do a bit of TLC, you need some developer help. But what you do get is revenue, total ad revenue as well, brilliant. First-time purchasers versus total purchasers. And this is all out the box once it's kind of been allowed to go. What products are being purchased? Brilliant, you can view those items specifically. And then you can work out, it goes to e-commerce purchases. Give it a second. You can work out actually the purchase to view rate, i.e. how many people view it and purchase it, is something really low and you expect it to be higher. Do you need to upgrade the actual content on the page? Do you need to change the photography? All this stuff can help you make better decisions. Revenue, cart to view rate, brilliant. Again, that kind of helps with the item purchase, or no, sorry, purchase to view rate. Add to carts, all this stuff that wasn't there in Google Analytics Universal. So it makes your life a little bit easier. In-app purchases, unless you've gone app, I will quickly go over this, but not spend too much information on it. Again, analytics works on apps and websites. So there is an area for apps, and this is it. No information is being pulled through for the demo account. However, this is where the information would be. And then publisher ads, pretty much to ignore, being honest, but retention. And this is the final one. And this is an interesting one and a hard one to gauge an understanding around. And by hard one, I mean more for myself here. So new users, fine. We know that. Returning users, brilliant. That's easy. New people coming and the some that return. Now you can understand the user retention. So how many of these people after day one come back to day two, and day three, day four, day five, day six, etc. For 40 days, I believe, or 42. Yeah. Why is that important? Well, it could be important to a Netflix-esque company again, where you want people to come back. Or if you literally want someone to buy something from you daily, an Amazon maybe, that could be helpful. And then you also understand the lifetime value of these individuals, because once they've purchased on day one, do they come back and purchase on day two, day five? Gives you a little bit better understanding. User engagement, after they've come back. So this is kind of showing after day 29, the people who come back, if they come back, they don't really engage at all. And then the retention, and retention is really how many people come back after day 1, 7:30, or day 1, sorry, day 7, day 30. So you can kind of see there in the graph itself. But again, I'm looking at a tabularized version of this because it's a little bit easier. But yeah, so that is interesting. May not be so apparent for a lot of the people here. By apparent, I mean needed for your company. However, something to know. So it's been an hour. If I quickly go over 2 more items, I'll go into the explore area and then quickly go a 30 seconds what you need to know. I'll go back to how we set it up and then we'll do any questions. So in theory, I should be finished the talking to a screen at 15:15. So a couple other items comes out of the box. You need a certain amount of information and they need to have a Google account. But demographics, country, you can break this down slightly by new and returning. Again, basic information, where have they come from, the cities, the gender, the interests. The interest one could be important. It's not there yet in the sense of you can't see anything in the demo account, but Google has put something forward called the Google Privacy Sandbox. And what that basically means is they have, and they're talking to, I can't remember the specific term for this, so sorry about that, but basically they're talking to the key technology leaders to make sure that GDPR compliance is there, as well as interest that it's not monopolizing the industry. But what they want to do is, rather than following people or being able to target individuals for advertising, they want to be able to target people by interest. And the Google Privacy Sandbox is basically a way of defining Harry Dance, as an example. His 5 interests are rugby, cooking, feels like a dating show really here, long walks on the beach, etc., etc. So they'd be able to target individuals like that, rather than the historical way of actually following someone. They target by interests, well, it's a lot more GDPR compliant. And then the details specifically. So this is country, users by new users, and this allows you to get a little bit more detailed towards the events and conversions, the kind of important area, I would say, of saying that purchase, whatever the events are, have you set one up? Fine. Whatever it is, give yourself a little bit more information. So as you can kind of see already, I'll just jump around back to the old one. This area probably would be geo, language, location. You've got the traditional stuff, the sessions, bounce rate, average duration, transactions, but then you've combined that with language, demographics, interests, technology, I believe, and behavior. Try to simplify it, but again, if you wanted something, you can type up here and say, I don't know, location. Location by city, by page. You get some examples. They even give you some example reports, but let's say location by city. Give it a second, it'll segment it to you, it'll give you that information. The tech, the final 2 items before I go to explore. The tech, actually, tech details, browser, time, etc., etc. Probably not the sexiest stuff to understand, but if you are looking to discern, let's say one browser is used a lot more, Chrome as an example here. However, it's getting a lot less revenue. Is something going wrong with that website in that browser? In the sense of 40,000 people go to that website or go to our website through Chrome. However, 0.001% convert in comparison to Safari. 30,000 people go and 4% people convert. Something's wrong with Chrome with the website. So you can do a little bit further understanding yourself there. So that's the key reporting areas. I will quickly jump into explore. And so this is, as mentioned in the presentation before, a really powerful way of reviewing and analyzing your work. So as Blue Peter would say. Here's one I did earlier. Give it a second to load. A little pressure now. Here we go. Cool. So this is a funnel. Through traditional Google Analytics, you could only do a funnel if it went from page 1, 2, 3, 4, because you could say, oh, they've been to this page, then this, then this, and this. So this, you don't have to do it by pages, you do it by events. So I've created a really quick funnel here. So I've said, first person opens the website. So quickly show you how I did that. I created a first person open. Oh, this is a custom one. It doesn't help because I haven't created it yet. But pretend I created it there. So they've opened the website. They've started the session. So this is, they've actually gone, that they've clicked onto the website. They've clicked. They viewed a page or they screen viewed. This could be an app. That's why there's difference between screen and page. Sorry, is if it's an app, it would be called a screen view. So they've done that. They've gone there and then they've purchased. So this could be e-commerce revenue. If we actually try revenue, or no, let's do review order this one because I already had purchasing, and I'm changing it for the sake of trying to be exciting. And then you click apply. And you give it a second. And in theory, here we go. Perfect. We already have a funnel. So we know from the start, and then they open in the website, and this is all through paid traffic. Sorry, I can remove that, but let's do all traffic. This is a way to segment it. Let's say I can do paid, direct versus paid, or you can add some. But here, you've already kind of got, oh, we know 100% people open it. That drops off to 6, 7 who actually go to a page. Screen view, page view, purchase. So this could be anything. This could be video, then went to a page, then clicked, added to basket, or went to the home page, called up my phone number. It's really trying to understand what the information you want to know. I've broken this down by country. You don't have to, you can just do it by general people, everything. But how you break it down is a dimension. So these things, easy way to understand a dimension. Any graph I've historically shown you, so on your left, it can be considered a dimension. So if you know it's been on the left, you know it's a dimension. Perfect, cool. So we've already got that. We've got the dimensions. We've got the segments. Can we compare and contrast? Let's quickly do that. So paid, direct versus paid. And this is just more showing you how powerful this is. Because historically, you would have never had this information. You would have had to pay for Google Analytics 360 that I believe, yeah, a lot of pocket money is an understatement. We're talking of, I think, the 100,000s rather than the thousands for the year. But now you can compare and contrast. Again, you can share this with people. If it lets me, oh, it's because it's cool. I can't do that because it's a demo account. But you could share this with individuals, and then compare, contrast however you want. There's many types of actual funnels, explore options. You've got path, you've got all these items. But I thought I'd better show it to you because it's such a powerful tool. Finally, the configuration area. So there's the events. Create an event, fine. You can create your own one. That's by actually using events you already have, adding, manipulating them. Use Google Tag Manager to implement them, and or use a developer. These ones are already there. So we've kind of got the page view, the session start, all these things. Conversions, again, this is just an event that we think is really important. So if I went back to my my practice one, we would go here. We'd see the scrolls, the conversion, as touched on before, and purchase, that was already there. The reason is because I just checked that box. Easy, a lot easier than traditional. Audience, so this is the targeting area. So as you can kind of see here, unfortunately, because it's a demo account, these are things that have been created. You can't create your own. But if I went to audiences here, new audience, You've got your templates, demographic, technology acquisition, general, someone who's purchased, non-purchasers. Some that were predicted if you've got enough data, or create your own. I want people who have scrolled. I think that's one of the key events I've got. And or you could do or and came from London. Oh, I'll do city, sorry. There you go. City, add a filter. The city has to be London. I just want London. London's fine. Cool. Perfect. I've created an event there and an audience to talk about. Save that. You can even create it as an event itself. So sorry, I should have given that a title. But yeah, click on it and it gives me all that information. If I did it here, if I quickly do this one, this is someone who set one up. Or this is for an app one, unfortunately. Poor click, but kind of gives you that information around that individual. So custom definitions, this is really up to you. This is creating something to define someone's page location, as example. So this is manipulating the current parameters. So when we're talking about parameters, again, that is the stuff that gives information around events. This is being able to manipulate them and add to them. And debug view is when you've got Google Tag Manager associated to it. And I think maybe you don't have to have it. But I would need, I'd be lying to you if I gave you that answer off the top of my head, because I had a brain dip. This shows you what events are happening, what people are doing on the website, and you can see that if it's happening correctly. So use or view item, you can look at their ID, and this is pretty much for the nerdier ones of us, including myself. You can see what item, and you can see the brand category, all that stuff that's already been built into it, page refer, where do they come from, but it's really just to check everything's not gone peaked on. And finally, I said I would show you how to set it up properly or things to consider. So setting it up, I'll be honest, is really easy. Set up assistant, tag installation. You work out what it's for. So it's not an app, so it's web. Add a stream, they're called streams. Add it for the web. I've already got one, so I've already got it. You get the code, you install it, or you get your developer to do it. So use existing code, kind of go through the things, I'll be honest, makes it very easy for you. So once connected, this is probably the important part. See the data coming through. Key things that I think are beneficial. So more tagging settings. Configure your domain. So this is making sure that if you've got other domains, so let's say, I don't know, dance lettings. So any referral from a website with dance lettings is my website. That's not a different website, that's mine. So brilliant, I can set that up. Define internal traffic. So this is if you work in a bigger company or you've got a static IP, i.e. internet address basically, or internet protocol. Go into your browser, say my IP. It'll give you your public IP. I can then put that in and say rule name, my HQ, well, Kayo Digital's HQ. You put that in, and then you say create, and then that filters all of the IP from it. So I need to clean up a bit. But yes, that filters all people coming from that IP, so that doesn't change your data. List wanted referrals, websites, maybe spam. This could be whatever you want. Let's just call it spam. Timeout sessions. So this is 30 minutes for this session. So maybe they could be longer. Maybe, you know, people leave your website and come back in 55 minutes and you want to do one session, fine, do that. Engagement rate. Again, I said 10 seconds. You can change that to 60. And then I would ignore this because this is bringing over Google Analytics Universal, their events to your current one. You can do it, but I don't know how effective it would be. And then finally, pretty sure you go through, there's tons of things you can connect Search Console, Google Ads to this, and actually understand the data settings. So when are you collecting stuff, how long, retention. So this is more for that explore. That's 2 months. It won't let you do any more unless you add 14 months. But yeah, obviously always be aware that retention means you take that burden responsibility of privacy. Data filters, remove stuff that you don't like. I've already got one. I think hence why it wouldn't let me do it before. You can add BigQuery. I don't use BigQuery, but you can add it. Merchant Center for the paid advertising, e-commerce. A lot of things, but actually, realistically, what you need to do is set up, put that code in, let it start coming through, and then start playing around. But if I quickly stop sharing that, and I will finish the last part of my presentation, and hopefully I won't lie about that being finished at 1/4 past. Cool. Perfect. So this is like to do, basically. I think document what you need and want, and then really specify, do you need it and do you want it? But I think focus on the need here. Identify what actions, can you get that data from GA4 out of the box? Do you need GA4? Fine, I'm putting that out there. You don't have to have it. And create an event, a naming strategy, more just so you can understand what you're creating there. Set up GA4 through Google Tag Manager. You can add it natively, i.e. just in the code, or ask your developers to do it. Optimize the data stream as I kind of showed you there. So get rid of the referrals, blah, 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 but make sure the data is good. Start to create the relevant GA4 events. And that is really, you've already defined that because you know this is the information I need. If it's not there, how do I get them? Do I go through Google Tag Manager? Do I talk to our developers? Do I do it myself if I can code? And make the relevant events conversions. And back to the conversions of the big events, the ones you really care about. You care about the events, fine, but the conversions of the events on voids. And then finally, play around and break stuff, because actually that's the best way of learning. We've got a year to learn everything. And well, all you can say as long as you want, let's be honest, if you install it now, the first year is learning. It could be almost like university. The first year is playing around. When you actually need it the second, third year, that could be the time that you really focus on it. But I would advise that you kind of focus on at least getting the basics. And hopefully today has helped with that.